From the FBI's most wanted list to the wrongful incarceration of an innocent, here are the top 5 dark secrets the FBI is hiding from the world. Number 5 on this list is your fingerprints. Authorities having access to fingerprints and the whole development of using them to identify criminals in law enforcement, it really changed the entire policing game. Identifying people became a lot easier and gave you actually indisputable proof of what they had and hadn't touched. Now, most of us probably think about this whole fingerprint game and believe that it only applies to those who have already been incarcerated. They go to jail, and while they're in jail, a record of their fingerprints are taken down so that if they ever do anything again or are in question of doing something, then we have a way of knowing for sure. However, it turns out that you don't actually need to be in jail for the FBI to be holding on to your prints. Buying a gun, getting a background check for a job, or even getting your driver's license are all locations where you may need to put your fingerprint down. Well, apparently this info isn't just thrown away, but it's actually sent to the massive FBI database holding all the prints. They have over 100 million fingerprints recorded at this database, and now you're part of it without even knowing it. Maybe I'm a little old school, but I feel like this is a bit of an invasion of privacy. Or at least it feels pretty backhanded considering I'm not even aware that it's happening. Like, I suppose it would be one thing if they made it totally clear that your prints were going in there. I still wouldn't love that, but at least I'd know. By hiding it, it really feels super creepy and kind of slimy. I don't know, guys. Comment down below what you think about this. Should everybody have their prints collected or only people with criminal records? I'm curious to know. Number 4 on this list is the most wanted list. Most of us are probably pretty familiar with the FBI's most wanted list. Usually it's filled with some of the worst criminals that the world has to offer, and they're typically tied to crimes involving murder or high-ranking positions in drug trafficking rings or even terrorist organizations. Either way, these individuals are usually considered some of the most dangerous people on the planet. However, that may not necessarily be true. This list, although it's certainly filled with some of the worst criminals in the world, shouldn't be looked at as the top 10 most dangerous people. The media and even the FBI kind of portray it that way, where the people shown on this list are the top 10 criminals in the world and they must be stopped, but it's very likely that there are far more dangerous criminals than them who are being withheld from this list. If you happen to be a criminal and you also happen to have individual features which are pretty bland and basic, then it's your lucky day, because it's very likely that the FBI won't be putting you on their list. This list isn't based off of the severity of your crimes, it's actually heavily influenced by the looks of the criminals. If a criminal has something unique about them, a tattoo is very prominent, maybe a scar that can't be missed, or just one of those faces that you could never mistake, then they'll probably make the list. Michael S. Schmidt, a New York Times reporter, says bureau officials try to select dangerous fugitives who could be recognized by the public because they have distinctive physical features. So even though we think of this list as the most dangerous criminals, it's actually just the most dangerous criminals with a unique look. It's very possible that there are some other fugitives out there that just aren't unique looking enough, so we won't ever know about them. Number 3 on this list is the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper, as we know it, is an entity that you really don't want to run into. Therefore, anyone who through their brutalistic behavior has earned the nickname the Grim Reaper is also somebody who you probably don't want to run into. Mike Devlin writes, "Mafia nicknames are often less than intimidating, but Gregory Scarpa's savage nature earned him a pretty tough one. The Grim Reaper. Scarpa rose through the ranks of the Colombo crime family but was collared in 1962 for armed robbery. Realizing what a potential asset they had on their hands, the FBI offered him an informant deal and Scarpa accepted the job to keep himself out of jail. Over 3 decades, the mafioso had a tumultuous relationship with his FBI handlers. He was a brutal, tough man. Later in life, he would try to self-medicate a bullet wound to the eye by pouring scotch into it. Yeah, I know, insane. But the agency used that to their advantage. According to some sources, he was sent to Mississippi in 1964 to uncover the fate of 3 missing civil rights workers. The FBI gave him a gun and bribe money and sent him on his way. Unencumbered by the regulations which law enforcement agencies are forced to work under, he kidnapped a KKK member from the store where he worked. Scarpa viciously beat the man, then shoved a gun in his mouth until he revealed the location of the men's graves. So this move from the FBI really is not cool, guys. They literally got a convicted felon who, let's face it, has probably murdered people before, to go and do their job for them. They gave this convicted felon a gun and money to get it done, and then was okay with his methods for how he conducted his business. Morally speaking, this does not seem like an okay thing for this agency to do. Not only should George probably be behind bars, but giving somebody nicknamed the Grim Reaper a gun and sending them on their merry way probably isn't the safest thing to do either. This also isn't the only time the FBI has worked with questionable individuals and groups before, and it probably won't be the last. Number 2 on this list is Geronimo Pratt. This is truly a really sad story and a very bad look for the FBI. Geronimo Pratt was a decorated war vet who fought in Vietnam. Upon returning to America, he decided to study political science. During his studies, he fell in love with the group, the Black Panthers, and became deeply involved with them. For those who don't know, Google describes this party as a Marxist-Leninist Black Power political organization founded by college students Bobby Seale and Hugh P. Newton in October 1966 in Oakland, California. This group had a heavy focus on self-defense, and considering Pratt was a war vet, he was appointed the title of Minister of Defense very quickly. The FBI didn't like this very much and decided that it wasn't in their benefit to have Pratt in this position of power, so they decided to get rid of him. Mike Devlin says that the agency got their chance in 1968 when 2 black men robbed 27-year-old Caroline Oslin and her husband Kenneth on a tennis court in Santa Monica, California. When they failed to produce enough cash to satisfy the men, they were riddled with bullets. Kenneth Olson survived, but Caroline died 11 days later. Pratt was charged with the crime and subjected to a trial orchestrated by the FBI. The full scope of their influence is unknown, but the allegations run deep. Information was withheld from the jury, including the fact that Kenneth Olson, who identified Pratt as his wife's killer, had previously chosen another man. Even more damning, the FBI lost wiretap records that backed Pratt's alibi. Pratt ended up serving 27 years in prison until finally in 1997 his sentence was overturned because it was revealed that one of the witnesses that testified against him was an FBI informant. Pratt served 27 years in jail for a crime he most likely never committed, all because the FBI decided that they wanted him there. And finally, number 1 on this list is MOVE. MOVE was a cult-like group of black liberationalists who preached a return to nature. Centered in a Philadelphia row house, this commune had windows covered with plywood and rotting, vermin-infested compost piles in the backyard. Group members stockpiled firearms and screamed obscenity-laden mantras through a bullhorn into the wee hours of the morning. Frustrated neighbors pleaded with the authorities to do something, and on May 13, 1985, an army of city officials, firefighters, and police officers gathered outside the house to evict MOVE. The group refused to budge, and police fired tear gas canisters inside. A gun battle ensued, and at 5:30 that evening, a helicopter dropped a C4 bomb on the house. In the ensuing carnage, 61 houses burned to the ground and 11 people died, including 5 children. Although a host of emergency personnel stood by, nobody did anything to help. Yeah, absolutely horrible, guys. Well, after a massive backlash ensued, it was found out that the FBI had actually given the police force this C4, but there was no official record of them actually doing so. For the most part, this was just pushed under the rug and hardly anyone was punished. Whether they had any hand in telling emergency personnel to sit by and do nothing is anyone's guess, but it's been widely speculated upon ever since the tragedy happened. But there you have it, guys. That is our list of the top 5 dark secrets the FBI is hiding from the world. Please comment down below what you thought about this list and some other dark secrets that you may have heard of. Also, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host, Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.